All right, I'm going to burn alive at Panthers training camp in Spartanburg. Heat index of 106, I believe, on Wednesday. Julian Council is going to stay cool in his home studio there with the nice background. First of all, Julian, this segment is sponsored by WCNC Charlotte, your home for the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, as we're still calling it. Also brought to you by sunscreen and water, the only two things that I will be putting around in and near my body at training camp because it's going to be brutal in Spartanburg.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, Nick, where everyone leaves beautiful, sunny Charlotte, North Carolina, and heads down to the oppressive heat on 85 south of Spartanburg on the campus of Wofford College. The Carolina Panthers 2021 season's finally here, and I'm so glad I don't have to sweat and be miserable like the rest of you guys down there.
Yeah, it looks nice and cool there. All right, so 5 burning questions, we'll call them, for the Panthers in training camp. And can they answer them? Can they be solved? Where will these situations be at by the end of training camp? Let's start with number 5, kicker. Joey Sly didn't have an abysmal year, but he didn't have an inspiring year. And I don't think any kicker's job is safe. Is his job safe heading into the beginning of the season?
Well, there's only 90 guys going to training camp, as is every year. And there's only one kicker on the roster. So currently, yeah, his job is safe. It's not like the Panthers brought in a ton of competition. They did bring in Matt Amendola, who played at Oklahoma State. Wasn't necessarily a great kicker there. Hasn't kicked for anyone in the National Football League. There was that one guy from Kosovo, Medvedev or whatever his name was, who played for the Vikings for a little bit and then got released. And then they couldn't figure out like the work visa kind of deal. So I think Joey Sly's job is safe. His numbers were kind of skewed last year. Matt Rule had the most confidence in Joey Sly out of any player
70-yard
roster last season. Yeah, just let's go out here and see if you can make multiple NFL record-long kicks. And the answer every single time was no. So is that Joey Sly's fault, or is that the coaching staff's fault for putting that much confidence in him in those situations? Now, like in Minnesota, that's a kick you got to make. The Saints one was super close. I still wonder, would the Panthers been off just trying to go for it, 4th and 19? But Joey Sly will be the kicker for the Carolina Panthers. The main issue is Graham Gano, who they let go, went to the Giants, was pretty much automatic last year and earned a new contract with former general manager Dave Gettleman with the Giants. And the Panthers still have a kicking situation that is pretty unsettled, although there's only one guy on the roster. So, yeah, Joey Sly right now is safe. But I would expect at some point in time, they're going to find some sort of competition for him the next couple of weeks. But I expect him to be the starting kicker when the season kicks off against New York Jets week 1.
Julian, I think the Panthers' answer to fans about the middle linebacker was, it's not Tahir Whitehead this year. So given that, is Carolina better at middle linebacker in 2021? Number 4.
Well, they have another 52. It's a Miami guy. So last time we had a Miami guy wearing a 52 is John Beason. Now when you're looking at it with Denzel Perryman, when he's been healthy, he's been a pretty good player in the National Football League. Now the issue has been when he's been healthy. He has not been healthy over the last couple of seasons, which is why he's no longer with the Los Angeles Chargers, that he's here. I expect him to be an upgrade because you really can't be a downgrade considering how many missed assignments Tahir Whitehead had last year, failing to fill the gap, failing to be any good in coverage. And then towards the end of the season, seeing Jermaine Carter Jr., who was in a doghouse beginning of his tenure here with Matt Rule, he was taking his snaps. So, yeah, I think that they improve at the linebacker position, specifically the middle linebacker. You also have Jermaine Carter Jr., like I mentioned. Shaq Thompson will also be playing that inside linebacker position when they have the 2 edge guys out there, Hassan Reddick and Brian Burns. So, yeah, I expect there to be improvement because they really can't get worse after number 52 Tahir Whitehead last season.
All right. Are they set at safety? Jeremy Chin moving back. There's a lot of excitement about that, but you need another one, and they've got Justin Burris coming back, Sam Franklin, some guys. But is this a team that's going to add somebody before that opener?
It doesn't feel like it. I mean, they brought in Clinton Dix, former first-round pick who started all these years in Green Bay for mandatory minicamp, and they did not sign him. I know a lot of Panther fans like, oh, that's a guy, former first-rounder, makes a lot of sense. We need help at that position. But there's a reason the guy was out of the league, and there's a reason why no one still signed him up to this point in time. They did bring in Lano Hill, who started a couple of times up in Seattle, back where Scott Fitter, of course, came from as the new Panthers general manager. I expect him probably be their third safety. Like, yes, it's going to be Chin who's going to start. You got to think about last year. He didn't play his natural position, and he was up for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I think a lot of Panther fans think that he should have been. Now, Chase Young was amazing in Washington, but what Jeremy Chin did playing out of position for the most part, Now, it's not like he really has a position, though. He's going to be all over the defense. So thinking that he's going to go back there, be full-time safety where he played in college at Southern Illinois, I'm not really concerned about him. Justin Burris, really the only moment that kind of sticks out to you is last season on the road with that game-sealing interception in the end zone off Matt Ryan against the Falcons. Mm-hmm. And outside of that, missed some time, where then they had to play the guys like Sam Franklin, who was a UDFA, who had played for Matt Rule back in college. You also had to think back to Kenny Robinson, who was a fifth-round pick in 2020, didn't make the roster, bounced back and forth from the practice squad to the 53-man roster. There's not a ton of depth there, at least guys that you feel confident in. So as long as Jeremy Chin and Justin Burris are healthy for all 17 games, then they're fine at the position. If either one of them goes down, then yeah, there's going to be concerns. And I would expect the Panthers, once their roster cutdowns happen, to maybe go out there and try and find another veteran safety if they feel like that's a need that they need to fill once we get to September.
All right, Julian, right tackle. Hey, that's an exclamation point with Taylor Moton signing his deal. Left tackle has been a question mark, is a question mark as we stand right now. Will it still be a question mark September 12th when this team lines up against the Jets?
Yeah, probably. What is this, year 9 of a different left tackle starter for week 1? And if we're really thinking about it, probably going to be year 10 next year in 2022, which is unfortunate. It's the one thing that people who listen to the show and the people who know me, that's the one thing I was banging on all offseason, find a left tackle. I was not even concerned about quarterback, because what's the point of having a quarterback if you don't have someone to protect him? And it's not just the left tackle position. It's the entirety of the offensive line, sans Taylor Moton. That's a concern. I would imagine Cam Irving will probably get the first crack at it. It's something that Matt Rule said towards the end of mandatory minicamp, that right now he'd be our number one guy. Trent Scott last year came in when Russell Okung was injured and Greg Little did not live up to expectations. And he played okay, enough to the point where the Carolina Panthers want to bring him back on a one-year deal, which I think probably speaks more to them not really being a huge fan of Greg Little and his potential to be a starting left tackle. Of course, Brady Christensen, who was left tackle and All-American last year at BYU, a 3-year starter at BYU, protecting Zach Wilson. He will have an opportunity, but as Matt Rule has said, he thinks he's better off right now on the right side. So if I was to guess, based off of contracts and experience, Cam Irving's probably going to be your left tackle starter day 1 against the Jets. And considering how he performed in Cleveland, where, of course, he was a first-round pick, no longer there, how he performed in Kansas City, no longer there, and how he performed last year in Dallas, again, no longer there, I would not have a ton of confidence in that position heading into the season. Now, down the road, will they find someone? Maybe, but it's unlikely at this point in time that the left tackle position is going to really be settled throughout the 2021 season and heading into the 2022 offseason whenever we get there.
So you're saying good luck, Sam Darnold. And that brings me to my final burning question heading into training camp. There seems to be a correlation with folks that think Sam Darnold could be good, also think the Panthers could be good, and folks that think Sam Darnold is bad, and in turn the Panthers are going to be bad. Aren't we going to find out real quick, though? I mean, he's going to face 2 defenses in training camp, the Colts and the Ravens. And, you know, he's going out for his 4th season opener after that against the Jets. I'm in the camp that thinks we're going to know really quick.
Yeah, I don't want to be one of those people that's going to use every single snap at practice and snap during preseason and even week 1 as a referendum on whether Sam Darnold is the right guy here in Carolina. Anyone who listens to me knows that I'm not a huge fan of the deal. I understand why the Panthers did it. They see a guy who was a number 3 overall pick, wasn't in a great situation in New York with a lame duck head coach in Todd Bowles his first year, and then Adam Gase, who comes over from division rival Miami Dolphins, comes to New York, and honestly wondering how in the world this man is still employed as the head coach at that point in time when he got the job. So Darnold has an opportunity here with McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, who he had continuity with back there in New York. You bring in Dan Arnold. Hopefully Ian Thomas performs better, and maybe they can find some sort of continuity on the offensive line. Even the left tackle position struggles. I'm not going to sit here and try and use every single snap as a referendum on it. Now, yes, I do believe we're going to find out fairly early whether he has the confidence to succeed in this offense. That's the kind of key for me heading into the season. Because, yeah, you bring up the Ravens, the Colts. I love that they're doing joint practices with them because those are 2 playoff teams. And depending on how things work out with Coles and Carson Wentz, they should be a playoff team again. The Ravens, no doubt, with Lamar Jackson, that defense, and their head coach, John Harbaugh, they should want to be a playoff team out of the AFC North. If Sam Darnold can get some confidence against those 2 teams, particularly those defenses, and in week 1 and in a game that I'm sure we're going to make a huge deal about against probably one of the worst teams in the NFL, the New York Jets. Like, that's a game the Panthers should win. Like, Sam Darnold doesn't have to be Superman for this team to win. They have enough offensive weapons on this team, which he did not have in New York, for them to get through the season with being a team that's competitive like they were last year. To me, it's just going to come down to red zone and end of game situations for this team to see an improvement at quarterback. If he's not better in those situations than Teddy Bridgewater last year was, then we're going to be in the same situation next offseason 2022, trying to figure out who the quarterback is. So Sam Darnold certainly has an opportunity here in Carolina. Am I confident that he's going to seize it? Not necessarily, but I'm going to give it until halfway through the season, if not longer, before I'm going to say, oh, yeah, they made a good decision or not. Like, let's give it a couple weeks before, getting to week 1 saying, oh, they lost to the Jets. Sam Darnold obviously sucks. No, let's wait till like week 7 or 8 and see how the season is gone. Because I remember last year, Teddy Bridgewater started up well, saw articles in October talking about, hey, Panthers made the right decision with Teddy Bridgewater. Then come November, get this guy out of town.
Yeah, for Sam Darnold's, sanity, I really hope that doesn't happen week 1, because you might not blow up about it, but you might be the only one. Julian Council.
Well, I know how things work around here, so I'm fully prepared.
What do you got going on for training camp, bud?
Yeah, just going to check in and see what's happening. I'm just excited that we finally have football to talk about. We've talked all this time about what this team's going to look like, potentially what they could do. Can they be a playoff team? Joe Brady going to year 2, of course, Matt Rule in year 2. So if you want just comprehensive breakdowns of everyday training camp, and I'm getting some guests on as well. Tune in to Locked On Panthers, wherever you get your podcast with me, Julian Council.
Real easy. I do Spotify, hit the follow button, and I get updates every time you put one up. So good job so far, man. We look forward to working with you the rest of the year. And congratulations on not having to sweat it out down there with us. You can just do everything from right there.
Yeah, I'll send you a fan, Nick.
I got an Olympics fan, so I'm set. Station took care of me. Spare no expense.
2020 Tokyo.
All right. See you, Julian.